think that by me doing this work, by me telling the story, by me being able to express my horror, my suffering that I suffered while I was in solitary confinement, makes me a good advocate, because I can express it, and people, when they hear it and they see it, they can feel it. My name is Victor Pate. I am the New York statewide organizer for the New York City Campaign for Alternatives to Isolated Confinement. Right now, as I sit here and talk, I'm transformed back to the yard. It gets easier, but it's the reliving that story that you tell. It doesn't take but a moment to be in the yard, to be transformed back to that yard. Most of the time, you hear people banging on the walls, or you hear people talking to themselves. You may hear that, and you may hear nothing. What led me into this, I can say almost reluctantly, my experience of 15 years of incarceration in our New York State prisons and jails. My first actual campaign that I was involved in was basically to abolish Rockefeller drug laws, which was one of the worst drug laws that ever came out, and it affected so many people, disproportionately people of color. It devastated communities, it devastated people's lives, and I just knew there was something that I had to do. Solitary confinement does not help the safety, does not help the security, and it definitely does not help anyone who has mental health issues. This is not an answer to corrective behavior. So we ask people to do an action once they attend our meetings. Take this conversation to someone else. We need the public to get involved. We need the public to call their legislators. We need the public to call these prisons and jails. Everybody can do something to help the cause, but the most important thing is that you do something about this horrible condition and situation that we're dealing with, and the treatment that people in our prisons and jails are suffering under right now.
Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. I've been on the air maybe 27 years, and Victor is one of my favorite people, and I've got a homegrown, he's my family. William has been, we've been around, knowing each other for, what, 30?
30 years.
30, at least
That's right,
30.
at least 30 years. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And we're
not
all,
old.
what we're talking about today is struggling being black in America.
Yeah.
And how we got
And not
through
cracking.
it all. Yeah, and still have our right mind.
Still got it. God bless us.
But we just showed you Victor's trip. Now, Victor spent some time in solitary confinement. This is serious.
Yes.
Solitary confinement is torture. Now, the argument today is, do we eliminate torturing people? Now, Khalif Browder is a classic example of how your mind goes completely bonkers. He was put under these conditions at 16 years old, accused of robbing a backpack, which he was innocent of. So he wouldn't go through the plea deals that go so reverently in black America. They say, plead guilty and we'll
let you go.
Time served.
Yeah, let you go.
But he was 16 and believed in, this is his first night out. His mother let him out. He was 16. He had to be home by 11. And this was somewhere close to that at that time. I understand it was, all right, it wasn't early in the morning. He wasn't hanging out on the corner. But he was stopped and accused of robbing somebody 2 weeks prior to that. And he wound up spending 3 years in prison in Rikers Island, being beat up because he wasn't in a gang. So from 16 to 19.
Beat up by staff.
Staff? I mean, that's a story. And I've done plenty of shows on it, and his mother was a complete sweetheart. And we even had her on the show. If we ever run I can
Did
run
you have
that
his brother
tape
too?
and-
His brother was on the show?
He been on the
Yeah,
show.
Yeah.
I had brother, and
Yeah.
I had the brother on. He had went through something similar to
Yeah.
that, and he was accused of something that he was innocent of. And he saw what his brother went through, so he took the challenge on.
Yeah.
And
All
still
right.
doing the work.
All right. So we see a gathering here of people that have gone through the struggle of being, what, abused, misused,
Dehumanized.
and it starts to be a calling, because God got you through it, you know. And so we see Victor as a classic example. Now, Victor, tell us all that you do. I know you're a busy man.
Well, I'd like to first start with thank you once again for having me on, Winston.
Awesome.
I'm always honored and humbled at the same time to just be on the show because of the platform that you create for people like myself to have this platform to talk to our people who may not be aware. And of course, I'm actually honored to be here with Brother William here, who is really a phenomenal person, and I got to know him
Political
through
genius.
you know, and you know, he's a renowned icon in the community for those of them who don't know. Quiet storm, if you will. So I would like to just start off with the, you know, when you spoke about solitary confinement and the horrors and the dehumanization that happens to people, oftentimes don't come back from that, right? And oftentimes people who have mental health issues wind up in solitary confinement and they spiral further downward. They never come back. And, you know, my job that I'm doing right now, it includes and involves eradicating solitary confinement nationwide. So my platform is nationwide right now. We have a federal in solitary confinement bill that's been introduced on the federal level by Congresswoman Cori Bush. Okay, so my campaign is intertwined with the federal in solitary confinement bill. But more recently, we have had success on the local level, which actually ends solitary confinement on Rikers Island. Mayor Adams had been claiming prior to this here that solitary confinement did not exist on Rikers Island. I
You're
have
kidding.
to say he told an untruth, and I'm gonna be nice by using the word untruth.
Wait a minute. Tell me that again.
He claimed solitary confinement did not exist on Rikers Island.
Well, everybody knows about Khalif Browder.
But Mayor Adams has been saying for the longest that solitary confinement
But
did
Khalif
not
Browder
exist.
brought the attention to everyone of what solitary confinement can do to you.
So-
I forgot to mention that he committed suicide.
Yeah,
He was 22
because of
years
his
old.
experience and the collateral damage of being in solitary confinement. So we recently, Jumaane Williams, the city public advocate, introduced a bill that was called Intro 549A that partnered with my campaign, which is to end solitary confinement, and introduced a bill which the city council supported overwhelmingly. And just recently, January 31st, because of Mayor Adams' veto of the bill on January the 19th, they voted successfully and have overridden his veto. So now there's a new bill that has been introduced in the city council and passed, and now is waiting to be implemented within the next 180 days that will end solitary confinement by any name on Rikers Island.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, solitary confinement goes by different names. They say punitive segregation, they say administrative segregation, they say restrictive housing, they say special housing. It's all solitary confinement by another name. So that's the most recent accomplishment that I've been successful with, my campaign has been successful with, and we will now go into the implementation phase, which is, like I say, 180 days, which puts thereabouts July or anywhere between July and end of July for to actually be implemented. And the purpose of this solitary confinement ban, it will create alternatives to people just being placed in a cell for 23 to 24-hour day without any other human contact, without any programmatic opportunities, and have people being placed in a programmatic alternative unit for disciplinary issues. behavioral issues, psychological issues, and create something that is more humane in treating the symptoms of why people act the way they act, why they act out, why they have disciplinary issues. But even more importantly, the real important piece here is that you can't place people in a restrictive housing unit until you do what's called de-escalation period. And that has to be a minimum period of 4 hours. And after that 4-hour period, they are reevaluated for their behaviors and see whether or not they are suitable to be placed back in general population. And if not, then they are placed in the alternative units that will afford them programmatic services and congregate opportunities to be together. And we're really glad that we were able to get that bill passed.
What are the chances of any of these alternatives working, since they know it's punishment? They want you to go crazy. They want you to go batty. That's the whole purpose of solitary confinement.
That's what it's supposed to
You
do.
did something wrong, so we're going to put you in there until you act right and go crazy. They know it's going to drive you crazy. Anybody isolated like that, it's known, it's a psychological effect of being treated like an animal. You start to act like an animal.
They punish you in order for you to get better. But that doesn't happen. See, that's where the opposite happens. And it's proven, I mean, there's medical documentation to prove emphatically that isolation does not do anything to help a person's behavior or even correctively. The only thing it does is cause a person to become degenerate in terms, not, well, I don't know if the right word is degenerate, but to digress in their behaviors psychologically and otherwise, so that they come out worse than they was before. Like when I went to solitary confinement, when I came out, I wasn't fixed. I was mad as hell. I couldn't wait to do something else. But the fact of the matter, I didn't go in there for, I guess you could say, violating institutional rules. I went into solitary confinement because I spoke up and I spoke out against the injustices that I'd seen happen, and I was labeled a troublemaker. So I wasn't a riffraff. I wasn't swagging institutional knives and weapons and selling drugs. No. I wasn't doing none of that.
You're a protester.
I was protesting the conditions. I was protesting when I seen them jump 8 guards jumping on one guy, beating him up. I was raising my voice. I was like, hey man, what, you know? So I became what they call, I had a tag on me. So whatever facility I went in, automatically they would label me a troublemaker.
So what they did, they tortured you.
They thought they tortured me, but all they did was made me bigger, better, and smarter.
But Khalif Browder, they tortured.
Unfortunately for him. But that just goes to show you what can happen when you say put a person in solitary confinement to punish them, to make them act better. And we're gonna fix them. We're gonna fix you. How do you fix a person by just isolating them and keeping them away from other human contact?
Especially if you're innocent.
And especially at a young age.
Wow.
Just imagine yourself in your house, in one room, with nothing, just nothing. No TV, no radio, no cell phone, no nothing. And you're just there. And the lights are on. The lights are on 24/7. Lights never go out in solitary confinement. Never. And you're just there. And you stay in that room for 1 week, no communication, no phones, no interaction with anybody else, only go to the bathroom maybe to get you something to eat, and you're locked in your room. How would you be after you came out? The deprivation of another human contact for that long, for those many hours, day in and day out, just for 1 week. How would you be when you come out? I'm quite sure you wouldn't be the same.
And how long have we been fighting to get this thing eliminated?
So
I know you and I have been dealing with it at least 10,
we
15
we
years.
did the Halt Solitary Confinement Act that was on the state level for almost 9 years before we finally got the bill passed. Okay, 9 years it took us to get that bill passed on the state level.
What about William? Speak on how difficult it was with the legislation.
Well, you know, it's all in the political will. One of the things that Victor and I have been talking about consistently over the years and even today was when we don't understand the political institution and why it's so important for us to be at the table.
Right.
You know,
right,
I don't
right,
want to ask someone to help me. I
Right.
want to be at the table so I can help myself.
Right.
And so that's why it's so important that we be involved at every political level, and especially the grassroots level. For example, judges are elected,
Right.
right? And this early couple of days ago, as a district leader, I had a meeting of my colleagues, 71 of us, New York County, Manhattan, and we just nominated 2 new civil court judges, right? And so it's important for our communities to understand how these parties operate and for them to get in the mix, become a county committee person, become a delegate to judicial convention, be at the table. So therefore, you can affect the change much better by speaking the first person as opposed to speaking the third person.
Right.
You know, and I think, and as we get ourselves in those rooms, then we can affect the kind of public policy that truly represents our community. And right now, here in New York State, we got a Jumaane Williams. You got a mayor who's somewhat Democrat, but somewhat conservative. But
Ex-cop.
ex-cop, but we have access to him, right? 4 counties out of New York City is led by an African American in terms of political party.
Why wouldn't Adams agree with the solitary confinement?
Well, he's an ex-cop, you know, and
what I said.
remember.
Well, they understand it more so than anybody.
Yeah, but well, thank God we have a city council body that understands, that can remind him of what he should be remembering. And the fact that, and how many of his own people, his own neighbors have been impacted by this. And, you know, sometimes we look at the system or folks incarcerated, we begin to separate out, in the past, separate ourselves from them. And now we realize that the system has been so corrupt largely because we haven't been at the table. And that we largely have been food for the system. And I think now things are
can't see
beginning
that.
to change. The type of young people that's coming into office, like a Yusef Salaam, and
That's
the
right.
potential of a Jordan Wright, and all those young people, Landon Days, just
Yeah.
got elected and, to the assembly yesterday.
Right, yeah.
In the Bronx. So as we begin to get these kind of voices,
Oh.
we're gonna
Exactly.
have a real
Great.
impact.
Yeah.
You know, but we got to be at the table.
And that's
Got to
important.
be at the table.
Yeah. And then we
on
have to
Zoom.
be, I think we have to be educated.
Politically educated.
important.
Yeah, politically educated. So you have the outreach, but the education piece is so important. Because sometimes I hear young people saying, well, I'm not into that political thing. I say, yes, you are. What do you mean by that? When you're not, you are.
That's right.
I said, so start reading up, start asking questions, because at the end of the day, you are. And if you choose not to exercise or be more active in that, you put yourself in peril, so you put your family in peril.
I think we have Graham on Zoom.
Graham, yes.
Graham,
Another
you-
brother.
Yes.
And this,
Here's Graham.
There he is.
so I'm still putting together that PowerPoint presentation. I was up late last night. Hopefully I'll finish it tonight. These are little known facts of Black history. And Black history is not slavery.
Hello. I got asked to do a Black History to keynote at a precinct, and so I think we should switch. And I'm
What's that?
doing
McHenry's doing his own
an
show.
art sort of event with children this coming week. Hey,
McHenry.
just me, only one.
McHenry.
My first slide is Acts 21 verses
They got their own show.
30 to 39.
This,
What
this-
time is it? What time?
excuse me, audience. This is a separate show.
10:30 in the morning.
Oh, it's
Come up
early.
on me.
10:30 to what?
Yeah.
Come
Till
up on
1.
me.
Till 1
But-
in Bed-Stuy.
Switch to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's myself and another guy, Fred, another brother from our church.
Tiffany.
We'll be at Calvary AME.
I gotta explain what they're doing. These two guys are on Zoom, and Tiffany directing the show. is put us in a different vein. So let me explain what we're doing here. You guys just cut into our program here, and Tiffany didn't direct me to what was happening. Beverly should be in there directing, by the way. Inside joke, all right? Guys, introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing there. Graham, you hear me? Can you hear me, Graham?
I think they went out.
And what
Oh no,
happened?
he basically texted me the passcode.
Yeah, I'm in there, you know.
Yeah,
All right.
and
You're now on the show.
okay.
You didn't see what we were talking about, so we didn't understand what you were talking about. So tell us what you're talking about. Then we can understand what you're doing.
We're talking about our Black History events that we will be conducting this month.
Yeah.
Can we call?
All right, you
So-
didn't hear anything what we were talking
Who's
about,
going?
right?
We didn't hear anything.
All right.
There
Well-
you go, Reverend McHenry.
Well, join the team
Hey,
here.
hey guys, we can't see you. There's no picture.
Ah, nope, you
There's
don't
no
have
picture.
a picture.
Yeah, so we can't see.
No.
Ah, okay. So, I don't know what's happening here. But you guys have to understand that we were just talking about solitary confinement. And
Oh, okay.
she decided to switch us into your two conversations. So we just came in on the tail end of what you're talking about. So as our audience or the taping is being done here, we'd like you to join in what we're talking about. Well, let's start with you, McHenry, and so you can go home to your wife and family.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Back at you.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, fellas, there we are. There they are.
Your
Okay.
assignment is DEI. And Reverend Sharpton
DEI.
put you in charge. You're a new guy on the block. And we had a new baby. How old is your daughter now?
2 months.
2
wow.
months. Has it been 2 months?
Hey.
Oh,
2
hey,
months.
2 months old.
Congratulations, Reverend Ron.
Hey.
That's what the Valentine will produce. Yes, thank you.
So tell us about DEI. I had a
D
role
stands for
in,
diversity, E for equity, I for inclusion. And we've been picketing as far as we, the National Action Network, and many various other organizations
Well,
that partner to picket in front of
let me ask you one
every week.
question. Let me ask you one question. Why is this important to black people? Not only black people, people of diversity, equality, people aren't being treated equal, and how it pays to have to be at the table. Like we've always been last place in most things.
Yes.
So why is it important?
Diversity, equity, inclusion are important to us, to black folk, to brown folk, to various folks, because a lot of us, as you said, did not have a seat at the table. The companies we would buy at would not hire us. And so during Nixon's presidency, DEI was opened up and instituted and put into play as far as making sure that practices were done to hire people of diverse backgrounds, so that we all could, again, participate, whether in education or in different job market opportunities or different contracts. So it's important because it gives us some sort of seat at the table. It was by law that we could not read. It was by law that we did not have access. So this is an attempt to try to repair what's been done for hundreds of years in this country.
So tell us about the Thursday meetings.
So Thursday, this billionaire named Bill Ackman has declared war against DEI. And so we've been picketing in front of his building on 787 11th Avenue every Thursday, just saying that, when DEI is under attack, we're going to stand up and fight back.
And that's 54th Street and 11th Avenue.
Correct, 787 11th Avenue.
And why is it important for us to, well, it's important for us to understand who Bill Ackman is. He's actually on the
He's
board
a-
of directors of the Federal
Federal Reserve.
Reserve.
Bank. Yep.
The Federal Reserve. Now tell us what the Federal Reserve does. Now we're talking about who controls the money on the planet.
Who controls the world?
This guy is
They have more
talking
power
about
than
billionaire.
That's right.
He's a controller. I mean,
He can
controlling
direct
the
where the
interest
dollars
rates.
go.
How
He-
inflation goes up and down.
Interest
You
rate.
realize what the Federal Reserve
Yep.
does? I mean, it's so important what we're doing here. People don't really understand what DEI is all about. It's about our progress, what we struggled for the last 50, 60 years. Affirmative action. How you don't know what progress it was. To see that, I benefit from it 2 years after Martin Luther King died. 68, in 70, I walked into a affirmative action job on Fifth Avenue.
Wow.
And by luck, I was a salesman and I had the right credentials. I look right.
Wow.
I was nothing but
Wow.
a prop, really.
Right.
Wow. Wow.
But they gave me everything.
Opened up the doors for you.
I
That's
opened
it.
up the door. I mean, I was only black, and I was used to being around white people, so
Wow.
I had no fears. I spent 4 years in the Corps dealing with crackers.
Wow.
You was ready for him.
I was ready for it. So it didn't scare me.
You was battle ready if it became necessary, right?
And it was a Southern company.
Right.
Wow.
And but this is that's humorous to talk about that. But Leroy's got a different story. We talk about this several times. But give us your as a youth, 35-year-old struggling with a new family, not understanding I'm sure you've benefited from affirmative action in some way, the positive outlook, but them taking all this stuff away. Our youth of today doesn't have the same advantages that we have through all this struggle. What does it feel like going backwards? You as a youth. McHenry, you still there?
I think he's gone.
He's finished?
I don't see him on the screen.
Okay, Graham. Tell us how affirmative action affected you.
Not really that I know of. The biggest recipients of affirmative action have been white women. More white women have had opportunities than any other group. The fewest grouping, the smallest grouping of people to benefit through what is called affirmative action has been black men. And I want to make it clear, white people tend to say that, oh, you just got the job because you're black. You have to be qualified. You can't get a job as an accountant and you don't know how to do math. Companies are not going to just hire you because you're black to meet a federal quota. You have to have some skill, you have to have some training in order to have the job. It was Adam Clayton Powell. And this is before affirmative action. He forced the transit authority to start hiring black people, all right? And my 50th anniversary of my swearing in was this past Monday. And I look back, I've talked with some of the guys that I was sworn in with 50 years ago, and we said the time just went like that. But you had to be qualified to get the job. And in that, the truth is, they don't want us there. The truth is, they tried to keep us out. The truth is, a doctor tried to have me believe that I had a heart murmur, and he was rejecting me on the physical exam. All right? So affirmative action doesn't mean a thing to me. When he told me I had a heart murmur, I said, are you a certified, state certified doctor? He said, of course. Board certified. I said, okay, so you would know the difference between the systolic and diastolic rates. And he looked at me and says, well, what do you know about that? I said, you went to school, right? He said, yes. I said, and so did I. And with that, all of a sudden, I didn't have a heart murmur anymore. But he was rejecting me for the job by alleging that I had a heart murmur. There was nothing wrong with my heart. I was a competitive runner. I would have been dead before I could have met him. So he said, well, just go get your hearing check. I said, wait, you told me I had a heart murmur. I can't do this job with a heart murmur. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I said, yeah, right. Don't worry about it. But that's what they were telling black men repeatedly, that they had a heart murmur. Or they'll come up with some other story with black women. They tell them they have scoliosis of the spine because they don't have flat behinds. See? So the prototype is supposed to be what white is.
Graham always
And
tells
what
us.
black is going in the garbage for them. See, and this is the thing. You have to be on your game when you get out there to do whatever it is you want to do. You cannot go out into the world of business, into the workforce, and you don't know your stuff. You got to be in the top 10%, and we need to be focused. And when they don't do what they're supposed to do, then you smack them. And you take the money from them and keep doing what you've been doing. But affirmative action, you know, they have no desire to hire us. And they will hire a black female before they'll hire a black male. They don't want that machismo rivalry going on.
Well, a lot of progress was made, Graham.
Oh yeah, and in hiring a black woman, here's another thing, and understand how the scam is set up. They have to hire females and they have to hire blacks. So what do? They hire one black woman that covers 2 boxes that they don't have to fill.
But we have
You
to
get
change
2 for
that.
1. That's what they would do. Get
Well,
2 for 1. Forget about hiring black men. Hire black women, and you cover 2 of the boxes automatically.
Well, that's why we should fight for diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that shouldn't happen. That's exactly.
You know what? There's a.
We know what
the
they do wrong,
Constitution
Graham.
Gets to have civil rights.
Well,
If
we
we just
know-
do civil rights,
we're
we don't
talking
need
about-
all this additional stuff. You know, if we just do what's written in the Constitution, all of these add-on bills are ridiculous. It's only because the government is not doing what it was.
That's right.
What Martin said. They're giving us a bounce check.
Right.
And they're keeping us going around in circles doing the same stupid stuff. Why are we repeating what Martin did 50, 60 years ago? Why are we repeating it?
Because they don't want to pay attention to what the progress is. And,
Right, so
and that's what
understand that.
happens.
Understand that.
Graham, understand this. See, these problems that happen to us, we quit on doing anything. That's why it's hard to get black people to vote. It's hard that
Well, they better vote this year. If they don't vote this year, they can keep their mouths shut. Don't go running to Reverend Sharpton and this one and that
That's
one
right.
if you don't vote.
Don't
You
call
got no right to
Ghostbusters.
complain if you don't vote, and the devil with you if you don't vote.
That's why we have to
I could care less
explain.
about you.
That's why we have,
If
like you say, the Constitution. We have to explain to our youth and people of our hue, or just people in general, exactly what they're doing against the Constitution. Look what Trump is doing. He's making a mockery of democracy. Yeah, I mean, it's a joke. 74 million people in 2020 believe what he said. And how many millions are we going to have on his side this time? Now, why is he even I mean, people look at this and say, it's got to be a joke.
The
This
thought,
man is
the
running
thought
for
that he
president.
could even run for president this year again is a
it's
joke.
I mean, look at
Right.
that. That's a joke. Does
They-
this
they
man
think that he
getting
could
away
even
with
do
the
that.
crap he's gotten away
Well-
with? What does it make us all look like?
Well, it's not so much him. It speaks to the we.
That's right.
He's a creation of a lot of other folk
Mm-hmm.
who he appeals to, and this is why it's so easy to understand why slavery lasted so long. It's so easy to understand what happened during the Reconstruction period, and then 100 years later we have to have a Civil Rights Bill in '64, a Voting Rights Act in '65. It took that long because we have a mass group of people that hold certain values. You know, with the migrant situation. I mean, you read the Constitution, or you read the tablet at the Statue of Liberty, say, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free, your refuge of your teeming shores, send me your homeless tempest tossed. I light my lamp beside the golden door. And at the same time, you say, build a wall on these people. And they're coming from countries that we actually messed up.
We did.
We messed up their countries, and that's why they're now coming here, because we supported the tyranny in these other places. And now these people are trying to escape what we created. And that's what's going on. So it's like almost like someone who set the fire and said, oh my God, there's a fire there, but you're the one who set the fire. And that's exactly what's happening. It's horrible. And it's sad, though, because even when you look at the migrant case and the current case of us, is now pitting us against other poor people. And it's just horrible. It's horrible what's going on. And migrants are not just Spanish. I live on 116th Street. There's now a huge flow of now African migrants. And historically over the last 75 on my block.
Yeah.
Prior to the last couple of years, the Africans that were coming, or the folks coming from the capital who were African descent, they were largely well-educated and well-resourced.
Yeah.
And now, because we done messed up their countries, now we're also getting the poorest of the poor and the ill-equipped coming from these. It's this America. It's such a hypocrisy. It's just horrible, man. And so therefore, my point is, Donald Trump flourishes in this kind of thing because Donald Trump, to me, explains who we are. It explains this nation, where this nation is. The fact that a guy like him can first been elected in the first place. He already said, my supporters are the dumbest among you. Remember he said that? He said, I like the ignorant. He actually says this stuff to your face. He said it to your face.
Well, see, that's what this,
Winston, they had
Graham, you know, that discourages us to do anything right. See, if we think the con man can rule, what does that do to us?
I'm not giving him the power.
I mean, this be getting over on us all this time. But we have to learn to team up to realize that we are the,
as he said.
I just want to bring in this point. Black people of righteousness are the spiritual people of the planet.
Yeah.
We have to bring in that God-centeredness that got us through this all. Now, we wouldn't have survived if we weren't righteous.
That's for sure.
We wouldn't be here. Now, this is the whole point of talking about all this solitary confinement, how to treat people, how to be human.
It's all connected.
How to be human.
It's all connected. When you think about prison, industrial complex, you look at New York State, and you look at who goes to prison, and you're able to track the actual zip codes, and as you analyze the zip codes, you find it's the worst schools, the worst housing conditions, limited opportunity to economics, and then you incarcerate the people who you've been suppressing, and then you blame them for being criminals when you actually developed them into that because they were trying to survive.
But
you didn't put the resources in their community.
How do you learn to understand that fact? How do you learn to understand that fact?
Well, that's why it's so important. Victor said in terms of the political education got to take place so we can really explain to people how this stuff works and why their voice got to be at the table.
Now, you started in politics at what age?
Elementary school. I've been I was a newspaper boy for the city councilman, Fred Samuel. I've been involved all my life, and it's
and you're
like,
how old now?
Oh my God, I forgot. I know I'm old.
You got some age on you. You got some age on you.
If I say it, I'm like, oh my God.
You got some
when
age
do I retire? You know, but I got to tell you though, there's some good young people that are now stepping up, like a Jamani Williams. Yusef Salam. Let me tell you, Yusef Salam. I hope he comes on your show soon.
Oh yeah.
When he was running a couple of months ago, I saw the way he walked through Harlem. And I thought about Adam Clayton Powell walk through Harlem. People were stopping to talk to Yusef, and he was stopping to talk to them. And he was so humble. And so people have been looking for someone like him that's a part of the people and not giving some political jargon crap But they say, listen, he was telling people, you got the power.
Mm-hmm.
He said, listen, I'm just a rep, but he said, you are the power.
Right.
Let's pull this together.
Right.
And already, his first month in office, what happened?
Right.
He was able to override the mayor's veto.
That's right.
And they were attacking him in the street.
Nice.
The cops stopped his car. Then they was, oh, he got a Georgia license plate. Well, hold it.
Tinted
They knew he
windows.
lived in Georgia. He just got back to New York. A lot of black folks have been pushed out of this city, and they had to go to Georgia. They had to go to Carolina because it's too expensive there. So now you're going to blame him for being away? You pushed him away.
Right.
And so now he came back. What do you want to do now? He's here.
And he came back bigger, better,
And he came back
stronger.
bigger, better, and stronger.
That's
And
right.
bigger and better
That's
and
right.
stronger. And so there's a lot of other young folks like him who's been incarcerated unjustly, and now they got a light at that end of that tunnel that said, listen, wow, if Yusef can do it, then I can be
Yeah.
engaged too for my community and make a difference. So therefore, when I walk through Harlem now, I can see more black-owned businesses. Okay, I can see black property owners. Because right now, you know, we're down in Harlem, we're down to 46% black. We lost a huge population.
Half the people
Largely
can't
because
afford to
we
even
have
live
not
in Harlem.
had
Wait a minute.
we have not had the
What you say?
really political will. We haven't had that really since Adam Powell. I mean,
Come on,
so I'm
man.
so Yusef Salaam, Cordell Clear. Cordell, when she's up in Albany, she's not afraid to say I'm black. Cause before that, people just say I'm color, people of color, and nobody else was saying that. Everybody else was talking about their culture, and we had to say kumbaya. And Cordell said, enough already. I got to be who I am, and she spoke up in Albany, and that reparation bill got passed. It got passed. Cordell Clear, that reparation bill got passed. So if we are able to elect people like her and a Yusef and Jamani,
And
we'll
Eddie
be
Gibbs.
Eddie
Eddie
Gibbs.
Gibbs.
I mean, if we're able to put those folks in play, and if we continue with the political education, we're going to be okay. And so that's what we got to tell young people. Now we got Landon Days up in the Bronx, who I admire a great deal too. We got to make sure that this new generation, that Keith Wright's Judge Bruce Wright grandson now is
Yeah.
running, and he's a great kid.
Jordan.
And so Jordan Wright, and so we're able to get this new generation to understand the politics, to teach the politics, to get their generation involved. And like I tell young people, I said, I want you at the march. I want you at the rally, but I also want you at a community meeting at the precinct.
Ooh.
All the police
Community?
precincts have a community council.
That's right.
I know the meeting's boring,
Right.
but we just can't just send old ladies to the meeting. Young people got to show up to control that budget
don't you get
and
the-
that behavior at those precincts.
That's right.
That's the campaign.
why
So
don't
if we
you
get young
support
people
everybody?
involved at the
Why don't-
table,
why
that's
don't
going to
you-
make the difference.
You work for Sharpton.
Yes, that's right, and
National
proudly-
Action
and proudly
Network,
work for
The
Sharpton.
youth huddle.
Yes.
Now they need to be going to these youth.
That's
Yes.
right. Take them
Well,
out of
Teresa
NAN.
Freeman,
They need to come
back
out
in
of
the day,
NAN.
Teresa Freeman wanted every NAN member to be a county committee member. She wanted them to be intricately involved in the political structure to have real power. Because the county committee is the one that filled vacant. Brian Benjamin became a state senator because of the county committee vacancy.
Okay.
Cordell Clear became a state senator because of the county committee. So if we get our folks at that level, to understand that process, then we can get the right people in office.
That's right.
In office. And like, again,
Create
Yusef, when he won that seat, he won 5-1.
5-1, because
5-1.
you got people to go out. And
He only
vote.
lost, I think, one election district.
One. Okay.
5-1. And so so we now know the kind of candidates we need got to be folks that got a great story and that's willing to do the work for its people.
Well, we're
And
gonna-
that's gonna make the difference because
Well-
right now the number of black folks that are leaving New York in droves it's a crisis proportion. And so if we don't
And I-
really get the new and so with the African migrants, for black folks, if we're looking to expand our political base, we better be talking to the African migrants. We better be
Can
talking
most
to
of
the
them
African
vote?
immigrants. No, we need to be sitting with them, educating them,
How about the
organizing
people that are
them,
here?
because that's the
How about
expansion
the
of our,
people that are here already?
both,
African immigrants.
both, all of it.
African immigrants don't understand the struggle that we're under.
Well, we got to pull them in.
We got to explain to the people that have been here already.
Both. I'm talking about both. I'm talking about we got to
Let's concentrate on people that are here already.
Look, the African
born
immigrants
and
are here.
raised
I'm
in
on
Harlem.
116th Street.
And we got to pay attention to
I know.
people.
I'm on
We're paying
116th
too much
Street.
attention to
You're right.
immigrants.
They're here.
They're taking all our money.
Yo,
That's
they're,
why
they're here. They're
But
here.
how can we pay attention to people that are ex-slaves?
Yeah.
Reparations.
Yeah.
Come on.
We got to move on that.
We've gotten the dirtiest of all
Yeah.
the deals.
Yeah, we got
the
the
immigrants are given priority
Well-
because they don't complain as much as we do.
That's true. And,
Don't take too much.
Yeah,
They
that's
just glad to be
the
here.
God
right?
bless Chinese Americans.
They
They were
glad
able
to
to
be-
get a bill passed so quickly
But
in
still
1
they have
year,
less
and we've been
to
trying to get
But-
that bill reparation bill
Here-
for
Who has
years.
the most to complain about?
God bless
But
them.
here's the thing: when we're talking about immigrants and other nationalities, right? And I definitely agree with Winston's
I
point
do
about
too.
what about our people?
I do too. I do
What
too.
about our
I do
unknown
too.
people? And my thing is this here. So when we talk about immigrants and stuff like, we also look at when you talk about the economic piece. And I know y'all know. Every corner in our Harlem, you got a Chinese store. How many black people work in those stores?
0.
You got
None.
an Arab store. How many black people?
0.
How many of them kids that live within a 10-block
The
radius
foreigners
work
own
in
all our
those stores?
businesses.
That's
What-
our
but
money.
what did Adam-
Foreigners own all our
But what did
businesses.
Adam
money.
Powell said? How come we don't know our history? What did Adam Powell? He said, "Don't buy where you can't work or own."
If
So whose fault is it?
if
You're
I
going
had
in
my-
your pocket and feeding places that doesn't feed you back. I mean, really?
If it was up to me, I'd throw up fences in Harlem and say, whoever's not born here, they have to pay dues. And
Pay money
Harlem
into the
Bank,
community.
You have to put your money, if you're working here,
Educate
and I'm
the
spending my
black
money
consumer.
there, I want you to put your money in my bank.
Educate the black
And
consumer.
here's my question. All right, here's my question, real quick, and any of y'all can answer this because I'm still trying to figure this out. So when people come in Harlem that are not from Harlem, that are of other nationalities, and they want to put a store in our communities,
right.
in our communities,
They should shop
there
it.
is a process in order for them to get the licenses, in
That's
order for
right.
them to get the yay
Yeah.
or the nay from whoever, the muckety-muck Chamber of Commerce or whomever, right, that allows these people to come into our communities and don't put certain requirements that you open this store, you must hire some young person
Or you
from
must
within the
put your
10 block
money
radius.
Let me
in
help
our
you with
bank.
this. Let me help
How
you with
does that
this. Let me help
happen?
you with
That
this.
they not
Let me help you
doing
with
that?
this.
Yeah, that's what I need.
Okay,
Help
I've been a
me.
professor a long time.
Now help
I have
me.
a lot of
Oh, that's
friends
right.
of
Tell us.
African descent who are Dominicans.
Okay.
Okay.
In fact, tonight I'm going up to a Japanese restaurant in Washington Heights, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I go into this Japanese restaurant, guess who's working in the Japanese restaurant?
Dominicans?
All Dominicans. You
Yeah.
cannot come into the Dominican neighborhood and not hire them
that's
and not let them have a piece
They're
of the
doing
ownership.
that up there?
Yes. So my point is, we let folks come in and do what they
But
do.
who's the we? That's what who's we?
I
Who
said-
has that power that say
any of us.
yes or no?
Any
No,
of
not
us.
me.
I know how I spend
not
my
me.
money. I know who I spend my
I
money
can't
with.
say that. I can't say
I
you
can't say
can't.
either, not
But there
me.
is a board. There is a group of people, the circle, if you will, who do have the power to say, when you come to him, I want to open up a store in this neighborhood, and this is the reason why, and this is what I'm bringing. Can I open up this store? Who does that? You can't just come into Harlem and say, I'm going to open up a store, and
The
tomorrow
cul-
morning,
the
somebody
culture-
gives you the okay to do that. Who is that? Who does that?
The culture has to be more committed to its political and economic power.
But you can never get black
the
people to do
culture has to be, just like I use the Dominican people in terms of they don't let you come into their neighborhood if they don't have a piece. We got
they
to
shoot
do
you if you
the
do?
same thing,
But
huh?
who-
They shoot you if you do.
But I'm saying,
Okay.
all I'm-
Gangster mentality.
but all I'm saying is
It's
that
just like the
And,
mafia.
who is
said,
and in the
that?
last 30 years, the Dominican people here in New York City have rapidly went up to the upper middle class. People say, oh, why now Dominicans are distant from Washington Heights? Because they had the economic philosophy and the collectivity to say, you know what? While we got this little piece of land, we're going to make sure this piece of land and this part of Manhattan works for us. Works for us. Let me tell you about Harlem. I hear people now black folks trying to move in. They now are attracted to the community because some white folks are now there. Oh, wow.
Ain't that
How do I get in? but you should have been here back in the 80s.
Yeah,
But-
during it
You
was
know,
blighted,
I mean, really,
right? Yeah.
but now
were
because
selling
somebody
buildings
else
for $1.
is attracted to it, now you're attracted to it. It's this horrible. Well, one bedroom apartment's going for $1 million. This is crazy. And so my point is, I can't think Epoch Gibson, who talked about black spending power back in the 70s and 80s. He talked about how our money circulates, and he talks about the circulation of other cultures and other groups. And he said if we were able to really harness our economic power, it will really equal political power. He said,
what-
because that's what
see
Dr.
that.
King did, right? Those 385 days
Yeah.
when they had the bus boycott,
Yeah.
that was not a political statement, that was an economic boycott.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Bus
And then
company went
because of
bankrupt.
that, things changed in the South, and the South for black people had some significant growth. He mentioned, brother, who's on the, Graham mentioned Adam Powell, who integrated the transit system back in 1941, way before Montgomery boycott, right? So Adam Powell in 41 understood black economic power, so he was able, even on 125th Street in front of Bloomstein, said, listen, we're not going to spend any of our money here unless we can work here or we can own.
Accepted conditions.
Kinda.
That's right.
Where's that discussion today?
Well, I
So
actually
with a
remember-
Yusef Salaam,
Okay.
with a Cordell Clear and others, if we're making sure that our leadership have that economic philosophy, then you're rest assured you'll have more young people in our culture actually voting, participating,
So you-
because they're able to look at the politics and the economics and hand in hand, and so therefore more young people will start voting.
You have to explain to young black people how you got involved.
Yeah. So how I got involved, I was a poor kid on 40th Street, and
What about your brother, your twin
my
brother?
friend who was murdered. So he had no interest in being involved in stuff. My brother went the whole other way with criminal activities, unfortunately, because he saw that as his opening,
way out.
his way out of poverty.
And your twin,
I was lucky.
you went the other way.
He went the other way. I was lucky because I met people like a Fred Samuel, Jimmy Banks, and their crew. They had their political club meetings on Strivers Row, and they held it at the Boys of Yesteryear townhouse. And that was like my little clubhouse. I would go in there all the time with my bike and stuff. And one particular day, we wasn't there. Ollie Edinburgh wasn't there that day. It was a political meeting, and I came in with my bike. I had a flat tire, and I had
How
asked.
old were you?
9, 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, I'm looking for Miss Edinburgh. I need to fix it up. Where's the tools for the fix your bike? And Fred Samuel was at the front of the room, and he called me up to the front and used me as a case study about investing in young people. He said, this young man has a flat. He said, but just imagine if all our young people are in need, have caring adults, how we can help them to grow. And he then said at that moment, I'm going to invest in this young person. That particular day, Fred Samuel and that club said that they're going to help me with my survival.
Became your mentor.
They became my mentor. And I went from the poorest kid in the neighborhood probably to the richest kid in the neighborhood because Fred Samuel had me be the newspaper boy, to clean up the backyard for all the black
Your pockets
doctors
was fat.
for a 10-block, yes, 10-block
No, I can imagine.
situation.
It was hitting
And when
you
it
all.
came to his campaign, he would come to me and say, listen, go get your kids, your friends from Minnesink and all the young people and help them pass out flyers and all these developments, and here's your budget. He told me how to do a budget. And so by that time, I became the richest kid in Harlem. I had so many jobs to the point where I had to hire other kids to do the jobs. And all the black doctors and the lawyers, they all knew me. And they loved me as a kid. Because then I would bring these other kids around, not just to make money, but I want the other kids to see caring black folks, caring about black
show
children.
them a different life.
And it made a
we
difference.
What year are we talking?
We're talking about, this is back in the 70s.
70s?
Yeah, back in the 70s.
Ah,
We're talking about back
okay.
in the 70s. And then so I find myself in the early 80s, or late 70s, early 80s, getting appointed the first teenager to a school board, to a community board. That was by Percy Sutton and Fred Samuel. And then I did such a good job there, the school board got suspended, and then I got named a trustee by the Chancellor of the City of New
You were
York.
blessed, man.
Yeah, but my point is when you invest in young people and you explain stuff to them and you give them that economic, remember they gave me that economic
view.
connection. They gave me a job.
Right.
I got paid to learn.
Right.
I got paid to learn.
Wow.
I got paid to learn. And then I tried to share that with my friends and other kids in the neighborhood. Some people that I run into them today, they say, oh my God, you gave me my first job as a kid. I said, as a kid, aren't you older than me? Yeah, we thought it was strange back then. But that's what you did. They said you didn't keep it for yourself. You shared it.
That's right.
You shared it. And I remember the day of my brother's, when my brother was shot. And I always tell this story, the day that we walked separate ways. And I was trying to get him to come with me to Minnesink. And he decided not to go. And I used to think that my brother didn't like me or something.
And this is your twin.
Yeah, I didn't think he loved me or something. I was like, I always was trying to appeal to him for some reason, and I thought I'd never get his attention until I ran into a friend of ours who's a retired detective. We call Junior. And Junior now is retired in Florida with his wife. And Junior's mother, who was the nurse of Dr. King, I had spoke to her before she died 2 years ago, and Junior said, you know what? We started talking, me and Junior. He said, you know, your brother loved you. I said, who? My older brother, Curry? I said, I know that. He said, no, Teddy. I said, really? He said, yo, when you were walking down the street, some of the guys, they were trying to rip you off or something. I said, really? I said, why? He said, well, yeah, but, you know, there's a lot of folks that love you in the neighborhood, but your brother told them if they touch you, he was going to blow up their brains. And so he was like protecting me even as a kid. And I didn't even know about it. And I used to get mad at him for being in the streets and stuff. Oh, you're driving our mother crazy. Our grandmother's crying. Why are you out in the street like this? And he, at the same time, he was out there protecting me. And it was so important for Junior to let me know that story. It was so important. And so all these years, when I'm at my lowest, I know he's present.
Guardian angel.
I know he's present. I know he's present. And so therefore, that's the story I also like to tell young people, is that our greatest success is what we do for our culture.
Yeah.
How and who we spend our money with on our culture. You got to take care of your family. You got to take care of your community, because that's where the glory comes. And so that's what we got to get folks to think. And that's what other groups do. You never hear about unemployment in Chinatown. I don't hear about unemployment in the Dominican neighborhood either, or any other culture. I only hear for us because we're not marshaling even our single penny.
And we're not taking care of you.
Doc, what Adam Powell said, hey, if that welfare mother got that check, she got power. Because she determined where it's going to be spent at. And best assured, wherever she spends it, they better respect her. And that's what we have to really bring back to our people.
All right. Well, I got 30 seconds. Wow.
You got me on fire.
I know
That's
it
good.
set you off. Because of the fact that, see, the God in me loves the God in you.
Yes.
And we have to understand our spiritual nature.
Yes.
We're the spiritual people. I say this all the time. We're the spiritual people of this planet. You have to dig deep down and see how you got to live this long. It's because God's on your side.
That's right.
On my side.
And murdered spirits linger.
Yeah.
And that angel was on his shoulder through all this. So he's there to pass it on. And each of us have to understand our call.
Do our part.
And it's to bring us back to ourselves. The God in me loves the God in you, and the devil in me can take care of the devil in you.
That's for sure, right?
That's right.
And what happened to Graham?